hopefully finding those two variables wasn't too difficult for your group. We now need to go through and start writing the storyline. So let's go through and remind you about this process, right? So we're looking at storyline development. Step number one is you've chosen the two variables. These variables are called critical uncertainties, or the themes, the trends are called critical uncertainty. They're critical because they have high impact, and they're uncertain because they're unpredictable. Okay, and then you go through and put them into your 2x2 variable, right? And then you have 4 future possible worlds in which your company will exist in. Okay, so these are examples, further examples of 2x2 combinations. Okay, this is one about a world being more global or less global, the networks being centralized or decentralized. Okay, this is a scenario planning that Microsoft did a few years ago. Another example, this is about different types of social change versus an economic variable, which is about debt, high levels of debt or low levels of debt. And then each of the 4 worlds have got 4 quite clear titles. One is called Everybody In, another is called Nanny State of Mind, the other one is called Robo First Lady, and the last one is called Ghost Town, right? So the next part of our job is to go through and think about what are those catchy titles, because when you're going through and running this in organizations and you want to get the buy-in of as many people as possible, you have to go through and capture their attention. And having clear, catchy titles is one of the ways you can go through and develop the storyline. Same things with movies, right? If you have a movie with a really boring title, it's unlikely to go through and attract people to go through and visit and to watch it. But an attractive, catchy title is much more likely to go through and draw in somebody's attention. Okay, another example. This is about education industry. So this is education within Asia. So you've got MOOCs, so this is about mass online learning. Right? You've got one variable, which is it grows a lot. The other variable is that it stays still. Then within Asia, is it politically and economically stable, or is it going to be unstable? For this one, it was done for 2023, so this was done 10 years ago. Okay, and then McKinsey. Right? McKinsey uses scenarios a lot. This was an example from actually about 10 years ago as well, and they're looking at the energy industry. And the 2 variables they've used is one is on economics, economic growth is high or low. The other variable is about resources, right? Energy industry has been reliant on oil accessibility. Very, very important variable in terms of impact, but also quite unpredictable in some ways about the access to this particular commodity. Okay, so for McKinsey, top left-hand corner, they call this, the title is Renewables Revolution. They say that in times of high economic growth but low access to oil, then the only choice is to go through and to have more renewable energy. So they call this the Renewables Revolution. In a world of high economic growth, right, and high access to oil, they call this the final frontiers, okay, where oil and gas continue to go through and dominate over renewable energy. The bottom right-hand corner, it's all mine. This is the world that they see of low economic growth but high access to oil. So where you're going to have many trade barriers, a lot more nationalism and protectionism economically. Bottom left-hand corner of the world is called reboot. So low access to oil, low economic growth. This is where growth has slowed considerably, and very different world situation that McKinsey go through and look at. Okay, so many different types of examples, different types of industries. The things they have in common are that they've got 2 independent variables, and they come up with titles which are as catchy as possible. Usually 1 or 2 or 3 words in the title. Okay, so your step now is to go through and try and work out what title you're going to call each of your 4 quadrants. Okay, so scenarios must have catchy names, otherwise they get forgotten. So try and make sure they're snappy, they're memorable, and that they might be remembered within that organization. So it needs to be relevant to that industry as well. Use between 2 and 4 words. Okay, some people go through and try and use film titles because they've been created to try and be memorable. So you could use the words Groundhog Day, for example. But try and be creative. Scenario planning, I'll remind you one more time, is designed to be as creative as possible. Okay? So imagine the title that captures what you think that world might look like in each of the 4 different world variable situations. So this is your 5th exercise for class number 3, is to start the titles for each of those 4 different worlds. Think about how you're going to go through and work on this, but I would again try and think about working together, put your team in half, and half the team look at 2 different variables, the other half look at the other 2, and then verify each other and try and come up with something which is catchy and memorable. Okay.